Hello, friends. Today, I want to tell you a story full of feelings and surprises. I hope you enjoy it and stay with me until the end. Ready? Let's begin. Teresa, you should go home today, said the professor, sounding worried. Teresa gently put down her pet and touched her big belly. Thanks, but I'll finish this experiment in 30 minutes. That's why you shouldn't work so hard. Your health and the baby are the most important. Teresa smiled a little sorry. She worked as a researcher at a medicine company and always cared a lot about her job. Even now, 8 months pregnant, she didn't want to stop. Her husband Vincent knew she cared about her work but worried about her. Don't do too much, he said every day while making her fresh smoothies. Vincent worked as a project manager at an IT company. He often traveled for work, but he still tried to help Teresa in little ways. As Teresa finished her experiment and got ready to leave, her phone buzzed. It was a message from her mother. Patricia. Important meeting tonight. Lou Jardin at 7. Don't be late. This was normal for her mother, telling her what to do without explaining why. Her mother ran a fancy boutique and cared a lot about looking good in society. Lately, she checked her Instagram followers every day. Teresa's sister Ashley was even more like their mother. She was a beauty influencer with 500,000 followers and posted glamorous photos every day. When Ashley heard about Teresa's pregnancy, she joked, "Don't steal my spotlight." But you could tell she meant it. As Teresa left the lab, she heard a kind voice. It was her grandmother, Eleanor, calling. "I heard about tonight, it's Ashley's engagement announcement. The groom-to-be is James Anderson from that tech company." Patricia is absolutely thrilled. Her grandmother, a real estate tycoon's widow, had always been the family's moral compass, making sound judgments. Teresa didn't miss the hint of worry in her grandmother's voice. "I understand." After hanging up, Teresa let out a deep sigh. Her sister's engagement, it was certainly something to celebrate. Returning to her home in the upscale Chestnut Hill neighborhood, Teresa carefully selected a dress, not too flashy, but not too plain either. As she stood before the mirror, considering the balance, she smiled gently while looking at her growing belly. "We'll meet soon." At that moment, her smartphone vibrated again. It was her sister's Instagram story. "Tonight will be the most amazing moment of my life." The post already had thousands of likes. She could easily imagine her sister proudly showing those numbers to their mother. "Shall we go?" Whispering to her reflection in the mirror, Teresa took her coat from the closet. The cold early winter wind gently rattled the windows. Under Mtrolle's elegant chandeliers, her mother was beaming. Dressed in a Chanel tweed suit, she greeted arriving guests with the air of a society queen. The upscale French restaurant, not yet open to the public, was already filled with an exclusive atmosphere. Dom Perignon and crystal glasses scattered soft light throughout the room. "Isn't my sister here yet?" Ashley asked their mother, somewhat irritably. Dressed in a pure white Alexander McQueen gown, she had already taken several selfies. Her fiancé, James, watched her contentedly while sipping his champagne. "I told her to rest at home, considering her condition." At those words, her grandmother quietly furrowed her brow. Her vintage Cartier necklace swayed slightly with the movement. With 2 weeks until her due date, is she really too ill to attend a party? Well, this is Ashley's special day. If something were to happen with Teresa, it would ruin everything. Besides, her dress situation would spoil the photos. Ashley nodded with satisfaction at their mother's words. The Instagram live stream was already set up. Meanwhile, at her home in Chestnut Hill, Teresa was quietly trying to steady her breathing. In the dimly lit evening room, she sank into the sofa, facing the growing discomfort. Outside the window, the trees lining the upscale residential street swayed in the cold wind. She was completely alone in the large house. Even Martha, the housekeeper, was helping at the engagement party, on her mother's orders. No one was left to reach for the warm herbal tea sitting in the sink. Around 7 p.m. the first intense pain struck. Cold sweat ran down her back. She sent a brief message to Vincent, who was in an important meeting on the West Coast. "I think labor has started. Don't worry, I'm heading to the hospital." A hurried reply came. "Coming home right now. Booking the next flight. Teresa, I love you." Before she could finish reading the reply, another contraction hit. Sweat beaded on her forehead. Her usual composure was slowly crumbling. Her hands, perfectly steady in the lab, now wouldn't stop shaking. With trembling fingers, she dialed her mother's number. The ringtone seemed unusually long. Her heart raced with each contraction. "Teresa, I'm very busy right now." Beyond her mother's voice, she could hear the pop of champagne corks, someone's laughter, clinking glasses, jazz music playing in the background. "Mom." Contractions come quickly. She struggled to form words between breaths. Pain distorted her vision. She could hear the tremor in her voice. "We're having a family dinner at an upscale restaurant right now. At a time like this? Today is your sister's engagement celebration." Her mother's exasperated response pierced her heart. The voice completely lacked its usual social warmth. Right after, she heard her sister's voice in the background. "Mom, let's make a toast. My sister can wait." Someone on the other end called out. "The live stream is starting." Lively music began to play. Laughter overlapped the sound of champagne toasting. "Cheers." Teresa quietly gripped her smartphone. Her fingers looked strangely white on the screen. The joints were pronounced. "I understand. I'm sorry for interrupting." Her voice came out more composed than she expected. "That's right. I'll call a nurse later. You still have 2 weeks, so it's probably just false labor. More importantly, my Instagram followers are skyrocketing." Her mother's voice faded away in the background. What sounded like James Anderson's father was beginning to give a toast. When the call ended, the room's silence rang in her ears like tinnitus. Outside the window, a cold early winter rain had begun to fall. Raindrops traced down the dark windowpane. Another contraction hit, this time, the most intense pain yet. It felt like her insides were being torn apart. Cold sweat ran down her back. She checked the clock. The intervals were already 3 minutes apart. Her hand trembled slightly as she opened the taxi booking app. The screen showed, searching for drivers. Just then, the phone rang, a familiar number. Her grandmother's steady voice resonated through the dark room, a voice that held a warmth her mother could never possess. Fighting back tears, though her voice was already shaking. "It's all right. I've already sent a car. It'll be there in 10 minutes. So wait by the entrance. Did you put on your coat?" A sigh of relief escaped her. Her grandmother's voice had a mysterious power. It was the same warmth she'd known for over 30 years. "But Vincent, he's taking the next flight from San Francisco. Now take a deep breath. Let's go to the hospital together. Stay calm, for the baby's sake." Teresa quietly stood up. She checked the hospital bag she had prepared in her handbag. Then, she took out a small envelope and placed it on the living room table. Her mother's name was carefully written on the pure white envelope. On her way to the entrance, her smartphone vibrated. It was an Instagram notification. Teresa turned off the notifications. Outside, a black Mercedes was already waiting at the entrance. The driver got out and opened a large umbrella. The rain was growing heavier. "Quickly, to Brigham and Women's," her grandmother's voice said, mixing with the sound of rain. There was quiet anger in that voice. Another contraction hit. In the car, her grandmother silently held her hand. That hand conveyed more love than words ever could. Streetlights flickered dimly through the rain-spotted windows. As they passed Boston Common, Teresa closed her eyes. Her mother's sigh and sister's laughter still echoed in her ears. The maternity ward at Brigham and Women's Hospital was wrapped in midnight silence. Under the soft lighting of the delivery room, Teresa battled intense contractions. Her grandmother continued to hold her hand throughout. "Just a little more, Teresa, Dr." Sarah Miller announced calmly. The hem of her white coat swayed with her busy footsteps. The sound of nurses efficiently preparing equipment echoed through the room. "The baby's doing well. Heart rate is stable." The regular beeping of the monitor confirmed this. In a brief space between contractions, Teresa took a deep breath. "Vincent. He just boarded the flight from San Francisco," her grandmother answered, checking her phone screen. Her voice carried an unprecedented gentleness. Just then, an Instagram notification scrolled across the screen, posted by her sister, Ashley. The photo showed their mother toasting with champagne. The likes had surpassed 10,000. "Let's turn this off," her grandmother said quietly, and took the smartphone. She pressed the power button. Just as the screen went dark, another contraction hit. A wave of pain swept through Teresa's entire body. Cold sweat beaded on her forehead. Take deep breaths. That's it, just like that. Dr. Sarah's voice seemed distant. The clock hands pointed to midnight. At that time, the party at MRAW was reaching its peak. Her mother was absorbed in Instagram Live, streaming. Her posts, as a high-end boutique owner, always attracted attention. "Hey Mom, how's this photo?" Ashley asked, showing a photo of herself with James Anderson. Perfect smile, perfect composition, like a magazine cover. Beautiful, let's post it right away. No one mentioned the hospital. In the delivery room, the battle for a new life's arrival continued. Teresa summoned her remaining strength. At that moment, a small cry rang out. It's a girl. Outside the window, the rain had stopped, and the full moon peeked through. Teresa, you did wonderfully, her grandmother whispered. Tears glistened in her eyes. A nurse gently wiped the baby and placed her on Teresa's chest. The warmth of the tiny life spread throughout her body. Hello. In a faint voice, Teresa spoke to her child for the first time. The baby moved her tiny hand, as if responding to the voice. Just then, the delivery room door burst open. Teresa. Vincent rushed in, out of breath. At the sight of her husband, who had finally made it, tears welled up in Teresa's eyes. Vincent knelt beside his wife, taking her hand. Then he gently touched their newborn daughter's tiny cheek. She's so beautiful. The three were enveloped in deep emotion. Everyone wished to engrave this moment in their hearts forever. Mrs. Miller, there's a call from your mother, a nurse announced hesitantly. Teresa shook her head slightly. Later. Her grandmother nodded deeply at those words. Right now, nothing else mattered. They just wanted to soak in this miraculous moment. By sunrise, there were over 20 unread messages from her mother, most of them updates about Instagram-like counts. Moved to a hospital room, Teresa took out a small envelope. In the soft dawn light, she picked up a pen. It was finally time to write the letter. Dear Mother. The moment she began writing, 30 years of emotions poured out, days spent constantly in her sister's shadow, memories of unrecognized efforts, and the heartbreak of tonight's events. After 30 years of doting on my sister while neglecting me, tonight's events have finally set me free. The pen glided smoothly across the paper. I won't teach my baby about your kind of twisted love. Outside the window, Boston was about to greet a new morning. Sunlight began to filter through the trees lining Newbury Street. Goodbye, Teresa. She placed the letter in the envelope and set it on the table. At that moment, the baby made a small sound. Teresa gently lifted her daughter, the beginning of a new life. Her grandmother smiled quietly. Vincent placed his hand on his wife's shoulder. Just then, the mobile phone rang again. Her mother's name appeared on the screen. However, no one reached for the phone. On the third day, Kayla was ordering the most luxurious bouquet from a high-end flower shop, an extravagant combination of red roses and Casablanca lilies, adorned with premium ribbon. The price easily exceeded $500. The delivery address is Brigham and Women's Hospital, Maternity Ward. At that moment, her smartphone vibrated. It was a call from her boutique on Newbury Street. Mrs. Wallace, it's terrible. We've been getting cancellations since this morning. The manager's voice trembled with anxiety. Photos from the party had begun to spread. Nonsense. It's just temporary. However, contrary to her words, Patricia's hands were shaking slightly. Her reputation in high society was her lifeline. Arriving at the hospital, she received unexpected news at reception. Regarding room 506, we've been instructed by the patient to decline visitors. I am her mother. I'm sorry, we were specifically told to decline family visitors. Just then, Eleanor Wallace quietly appeared. The envelope she handed over bore Patricia's name in familiar, meticulous handwriting. Kayla's hand trembled slightly as she opened the letter. Dear Mother. With each line she read, the color drained from Patricia's face. 30 years of feelings, undeniable facts, words of farewell. You reap what you sow, Patricia. Her grandmother's voice was quiet, but stern. But be quiet. At her grandmother's words, Patricia was lost for words. Down the hall, a baby's cry echoed. That evening, Ashley's Instagram follower count began to plummet rapidly. Comments on her engagement party posts had turned harsh. The next morning, among the nurses at Massachusetts General Hospital, a story began to spread, quickly making its way through Boston's medical community. At the same time, regular customers at the Newbury Street boutique began canceling their accounts, one after another. "I'm sorry, but our future." Kayla was stopped by the cold looks of the important ladies around her. The respect she had earned over many years was falling apart fast. At Ashley's fiancé James's house, things felt heavy and tense. "This will hurt our family's reputation too," James's mother whispered to her husband. On the table was the Boston Globe's gossip page. The headline said, "Twisted Motherhood in High Society." That night, Ashley felt worried for the first time as she looked at her engagement ring. She kept getting emails from companies that sponsored her. Kayla sat at her desk. In front of her were charts showing her boutique sales dropping and many canceled orders. Everything she had worked for over 30 years was falling apart. Outside, rain quietly fell on the fancy streets of Chestnut Hill. No one walked under the trees. In a hospital room, Teresa held her baby daughter and looked out the window. Vincent was there, fully supporting her. "This is the choice we made," her grandmother quietly agreed. A few days later, a letter came from the Anderson family. "After thinking carefully, we have to end the engagement." Ashley cried, but not because she felt sorry. She was upset because her social media likes dropped a lot. Kayla faced new problems in her study, bank notices and warnings about her house she had borrowed money against. Everything was falling down like a sandcastle. "These are the results of my choices," she thought. She looked at a family photo from 10 years ago when everyone was smiling, but now the smiles seemed fake. In Chestnut Hill, new rumors started to spread. "I heard Wallace Boutique is closing. Is it true Ashley's engagement is broken?" It wasn't a big punishment, but slowly losing her place in high society was the worst. In room 506 at Brigham and Women's Hospital, a new family story began. The setting sun shone softly on mother and daughter. "We'll follow a different path," Teresa said, and Vincent nodded quietly. Her grandmother held the baby's tiny hand, watching outside. Spring in Boston. 5 years later, in a Harvard Medical School lab, Teresa studied data for a new cancer drug. Cherry blossom petals floated outside the window. "Mommy." Her 5-year-old daughter Lori ran in. It was their daily routine for grandmother Eleanor to pick Lori up from daycare and bring her to Teresa's workplace. "Lori, no running," Eleanor's gentle voice called. She still looked graceful despite her age. "Mommy, guess what? My teacher liked my drawing today." Lori proudly showed a picture of a garden with colorful flowers and 3 smiling people holding hands, Lori, Teresa, and Vincent. "It's beautiful." Teresa hugged her daughter and smiled at her coworkers. They smiled back warmly. Meanwhile, Kayla sat alone in her small apartment in the suburbs. It was a simple room, very different from her old mansion. An unopened letter from Ashley, now working at a small beauty salon in Los Angeles, lay on the table. "Mom, can we start over?" The letter sounded less proud but still had a careful tone. Kayla looked in the mirror at her reflection. She looked like a stranger. After closing the boutique, she disappeared from society and was now afraid to walk the streets of Chestnut Hill. The cold looks from old friends still hurt. At the Miller family's new home, dinner was starting. "Lori, go wash your hands." Lori happily ran to the kitchen. Vincent was cooking pasta. His success in IT had made his career grow. "Grandma, taste this sauce." Family dinners were warm and cozy. The wine glasses on the table shone softly. "By the way, Eleanor," Vincent said quietly, "I got a letter from Patricia this morning." The room felt tense. "Dear Teresa, can I see you one more time?" The letter was full of polite apologies but no true regret. "I won't answer," Teresa said quietly but firmly. "Mommy, can I have seconds?" Lori's voice made the room feel lighter. "Here you go." That night, Teresa watched Lori sleep. Her long lashes, soft cheeks, and quiet breathing filled the room. This really was the right choice. Vincent hugged Teresa gently from behind. The next morning, Teresa walked hand in hand with Lori the Charles River. The spring sun shone softly. "Mommy, look at those ducks." Lori pointed to a mother duck swimming with her ducklings. "Lori, what do you want to say?" Mommy will always be on your side. I know. That simple answer warmed Teresa's heart. From Boston Common, church bells rang, starting a new Sunday. Teresa looked up at the sky. Thin clouds floated like memories. Let's go. Mother and daughter walked on, hand in hand. They looked so happy. The spring sunlight sparkled on the Charles River,